But I want to follow up on that point. According to the nonpartisan research group on the issue, they're hooked up with Ballotpedia online now. It's nonpartisan. They analyze voting records and what you do. They say they call you a, quote, hardcore conservative with 94% on economic issues, 13% of grade on social issues. And you say you're bipartisan, which there's a disconnect here that I'm seeing.
Very good. And I don't know, I'm proud of a 94% conservative rating, and you know, that begs the question of why do people think that I'm not conservative?
Okay.
But the reality is all of the bills that I work on start off bipartisan. Data security can be a partisan bill if you let it be. Okay. But I don't want it to, because it won't pass as just a partisan bill. Now there's going to be some bills like a tax reform bill that are probably going to be partisan. And if it's a bill that raises taxes, yeah, I'm going to vote against it.
So how do you find that middle ground between, you kind of touched on this, it seems like at some points it goes against you in your own party on both sides of the aisle to work with someone else on, and the sequestration issue is a perfect example of that, just butting heads. How do you get past that? Why should we send any representative back when this seems to be an issue?
Well, you got to look at who's actually problem and who's trying to solve. So even during the shutdown period, I said, well, let's use this. I went to the leadership and said, let's do this. Let's pick the priorities. Let's pick what are essential and bring those to the House floor so we can get those open. And one was for veterans, to make sure they were paid, oversee our military overseas. And then it started to devolve into just partisan, where the Democrats would vote against every one of them, even though they, if it wasn't under that circumstance, would have voted for them. And so the answer is, there's a mindset with some of my colleagues that they're just going to be partisan. And I think we need to get over that. But coming back to, when I write a bill, I invite the other side in from the very beginning. We're not going to agree on all of them, and we may have to compromise.
Well, let's talk about the big thing out there. When you first were elected, in the first couple elections, I remember you walked. I mean, you crushed the competition. Yeah. Easily reelected. Last couple have been noticeably closer. The last election against John Ewing, I believe, was 2 percentage points was the victory. It's getting closer and closer. Some people now say that you are vulnerable. Your seat has been targeted as vulnerable for the Democrats. In light of what's happened, are you going to change, if you win, are you going to change what you're doing back there in Washington?
Well, I think it's really important from the very beginning to be honest with the people, and especially the campaign season gives you the opportunity to say who you are, what you stand for, what are your principles, and then you stay true to those. And I think that's being honest with the public. And so change, no, because my values haven't changed. Maybe the way I operate, maybe the way I'll speak about things, but the reality is my principles shouldn't change, because if I say X and I do Y, then I'm not trustworthy anymore. And then I think you're not being honest with the public anymore.
Do you anticipate, if you do keep winning, career in Congress, or do you have a time in your mind saying, okay, one more term?
Well, I'm going to get to that point, and I'll tell you something that only my wife knows right now, and now everybody will know. Some people wanted me to run for Senate last time. Open seat, you're the senior member of the delegation, you should go for it. There were 2 things that quickly made me say, I'm not going to do. And that was, one, if you win, you have to commit in the Senate to build up the seniority there. So that means you're committing for probably 18 more years, and I wasn't willing to. I didn't come here to make it a career. I'm running again because I have unfinished business in a lot of areas that I'd like to see done. So when I feel comfortable with that time is the time, then I'll go back to the private sector.
All right. Well, time for us to take a short break now as we continue our discussion.
And obviously we're going to talk about a lot of those issues, many of them hot-button issues that you're talking about, and Congressman Terry's talking about on the campaign trail.